If you went to SHS in Ghana, you already know survival is a skill. I'm talking about a level of survival that would make Bear Grylls think twice. Quick shot, Emmanuel smiling. Forget everything you thought you knew about comfort, because for 3 years, your life revolves around a metal trunk, a questionable mattress, and the constant fear of a senior asking you to do something impossible. Today, we are throwing it all the way back to the good, the bad, and the absolutely hilarious days of senior high school boarding life. We're going to relive the moments that shaped us, the struggles that made us stronger, and the memories that we'll be laughing about for the rest of our lives. From the moment you arrive on campus, you enter a completely new world with its own set of rules, its own currency, Gari, its own currency, Shito, and its own social hierarchy. You learn to live with 100 other people, sharing everything from your soap to your secrets. It's a crazy, chaotic, and sometimes frustrating experience, but it's also where you form some of the deepest friendships you will ever have. Alright, let's start with the absolute foundation of your entire existence in the boarding house, the chop box. This wasn't just a metal trunk, this was your bank, your pantry, your safe, and your entire net worth all rolled into one. The first rule of SHS is that you protect your chop box with your life. The second rule, you learn how to pass the dreaded chop box inspection. This was a military-grade operation, a moment of pure terror as the matron descended on the dorms. You'd spend hours preparing. Every tin of milk had to be wiped down until it gleamed. Every packet of biscuits had to be stacked with architectural precision. Your sugar, your gari, your shito, each in its sealed container, pristine. The matron walked the aisle, eyes scanning for any crumb out of place. If your box was messy, it wasn't just a lecture, it was punishment. The secret? The inspection was also about smuggling. We were master criminals in training. Official items on top. The magic was underneath. Secret compartments for contraband. Extra loaves of bread, forbidden brands of biscuits, a small jar of peanut butter. I remember one time, my friend had managed to smuggle in a whole box of richoko. To us, this was like finding a brick of solid gold. During inspection, the matron got closer. We heard confiscations down the line. My friend started sweating, his face pale. He'd hidden the richoko under a cardboard false bottom. The matron opened his box, poked the top layer, then paused. She tapped the side, listened, she stared. Then she grunted, slammed the lid, and moved on. If the chop box was your personal bank, then the dining hall was the Wild West. This was where society broke down every man, woman, and child for themselves. The dining hall bell rang and the stampede began. Sprint across campus, racing toward the queue, because if you weren't in that queue within the first 5 minutes, you might as well forget about eating. Legendary queues stretched back to the dorms. Inside, the next challenge, the food. Credit to the cooks. Thousands fed on a budget. But that meant culinary experiments. The infamous mystery stew. Was it beef? Was it fish? Was it something else entirely? Close your eyes, breathe, hope for the best. It taught you an iron stomach and a very, very open mind. The real battle, keeping your food. Hierarchy showed itself. As a junior, your plate was a target. Develop defensive maneuvers to carry food to your table. Hunch over your plate like a gargoyle, arms as a shield. Stay aware. A hungry senior could swoop in like a hawk and steal your single precious piece of chicken. Food else currency. A piece of chicken could be traded for someone doing your laundry for a week. A slice of bread with extra butter equals gold. People traded rice for someone else's kenki or stew for a scoop of shito from a friend's personal stash. It was a bustling marketplace of flavor. Table heading system. Seniors at the head served first. They took the best parts, leaving scraps. One time, fish was served. The senior eyed my slightly bigger piece. Without a word, he reached over with his fork, swapped our fish, and kept eating. I was devastated but stayed silent. Ate my tiny fish, dreamed of being a senior. Lessons, humility, negotiation, and speed. Eat fast, guard resources, appreciate every bite. Chaotic and unfair, but it forged solidarity. Smuggle bread for friends who missed meals. In the ecosystem of SHS, seniors were at the top of the food chain. They were the kings and queens, the lawmakers, the judges, all rolled into one. When you were in Form 1, your life was not your own. It belonged to the seniors. Their word was law, and their commands were absolute. A senior could be standing 50 feet away. If they snapped their fingers and pointed at you, you had no choice but to drop everything. You'd sprint over, ready to receive your orders. It was a system built on respect, tradition, and a healthy dose of fear. The commands could be anything. Junior, go and fetch me water. Junior, wash these bowls. Junior, polish my shoes. Sometimes the requests were downright bizarre. I remember being asked to stand on one leg and sing the entire school anthem backwards. Why? There was no why, you just did it. Refusal was not an option. It would lead to punishments that were creative, exhausting, designed to ensure you never ever disobeyed again. These punishments were the stuff of legend passed down from one generation to the next. This system was often referred to as homoing, a core part of boarding house culture. Now, let's be real. While we can laugh at some of it, some aspects were intense and could cross the line. There was a seriousness to it, a genuine struggle for many of us. It was a tough environment that forced you to grow up fast. But for the most part, it was seen as teaching discipline and respect. A rite of passage before you could earn your place as a senior. The survival tactics you developed were incredible. You learned to become invisible when you didn't want to be picked. You'd find the perfect hiding spot in the library, or pretend to be deep in study. You also learned negotiation and forming alliances. If you were friends with a school prefect or a respected senior, you had a layer of protection. These connections were social capital, used wisely to navigate the dorm's politics. It was like a real-life season of Game of Thrones, but with more buckets of water. I have a vivid memory of being a school son to a senior. I was his designated go-to junior. He protected me from other seniors and sometimes shared provisions, but it also meant I was on call 24/7. One night, way past midnight, he woke me up because he wanted tea. Not just any tea, tea with a specific amount of milk and sugar. I had to sneak out of the dorm, navigate dark paths to the kitchen without getting caught by the watchman, and somehow boil water to make the perfect cup. My heart was pounding the whole time. I felt like a secret agent on a mission of utmost importance. When I brought the tea back, he took one sip, nodded and said, "It's okay." That was it. No thank you, no reward. Just, "It's okay." But I felt a weird sense of accomplishment. I had completed the mission. Surviving the seniors was a psychological game. It taught you resilience, obedience, and how to serve, which strangely prepared you to lead one day. Prep time. That mandatory 2 to 3 hour block of evening study that was in theory meant for academic excellence. In reality, it was a theater of the absurd. The entire student body would file into the classrooms or study halls, books in hand. But for a good portion of us, prep was a battle against the one enemy, sleep. The sheer exhaustion from a day of classes, chores, and general survival would hit you like a truck. You would see the most creative sleeping positions imaginable, the head on the desk sleepers, the book as a pillow sleepers, and, my favorite, the pen in hand pretending to write sleepers. These were the true artists. Book open to a page, pen poised over a notebook, eyes glazed over, lost in dreamland. Every so often, their head would jerk up, they'd scribble a random line and then drift off again. It was a silent universal struggle that connected us all. And then there was the torch situation. Power outages, dumb sore, were a regular feature of life. When the lights went out during prep, the whole atmosphere changed. Those who were prepared, the ones with torches and those with candles, became kings. Suddenly, people you hadn't spoken to all year tried to be your best friend, huddling around your tiny circle of light. And there was always that one friend who never brought a torch. They'd rely entirely on the generosity of others, whispering, "Charlie, shift your light small," for 2 hours straight. Prep time was also the hub for group cramming, especially before a big test or exam. A corner of the classroom would turn into a high-intensity study zone. One person who actually understood the topic would become the designated teacher, frantically trying to explain a semester's worth of calculus or biology in 30 minutes. Notes would be passed, whispers exchanged, and mnemonics created on the fly. It was chaotic, inefficient, and probably not the best way to learn, but there was a powerful sense of camaraderie in our shared panic. I remember one night before a massive integrated science exam. The lights went out, of course. My friend had the only working torch in our section. We had about 10 people crowded around him, heads practically touching, trying to read from a single textbook. He was holding the torch and trying to explain photosynthesis. Every time he moved his hand to point at a diagram, the light would move, and 10 people would groan in unison. It was completely ridiculous, trying to learn about chlorophyll in near total darkness. In the end, prep time was this weird mix of productivity and pure comedy. It was where you were supposed to be your most academic self, but it was also where you were your most human. You were tired, you were stressed, but you were also with your friends, sharing a silent understanding. Man, what a trip down memory lane. From hiding food from the matron to fighting for your life in the dining hall, and from serving seniors to pretending to study during prep. SHS was a wild ride. It was a unique, crazy, and unforgettable chapter of our lives. These experiences, as tough as they were at the time, are the stories we now tell with so much laughter and nostalgia. They shaped us into the resilient, resourceful, and maybe slightly traumatized adults we are today. It's a shared experience that connects thousands of us across Ghana. If you know, you know. Looking back, it's the little things that stand out the most. The inside jokes with your dorm mates, the taste of that contraband biscuit, the feeling of relief when the bell rang for the end of prep. It was a pressure cooker, but it forged some of the strongest friendships imaginable. You learned more about life, people, and yourself in those 3 years than in any textbook. So, to everyone who survived the boarding house, you are a true champion. You made it through the trenches, and you have the hilarious stories to prove it. Now I want to hear from you guys. If you went to SHS, drop your funniest dorm story in the comments. Which item was your biggest struggle? Was it the gari, the shido, or trying to keep your soap from disappearing? Let's fill the comments with memories. And if you enjoyed reliving the glory days, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more stories, and share this with every single one of your SHS friends. Let's keep the nostalgia going. What's your funniest dorm story? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.